To accomplish the bouncing animation effect that we're planning, we need to control the X position of this bake sale word. So right now we are rendering this word with a simple text inside a view. We can actually animate both of these components. Usually we animate the containing view. So to animate this view, we need to change the regular component into animated.view, just like that. And of course, I need to import animated from React Native. So this is the very first step. Animated from React Native, and you would change your component to an animated version of that. Next, you need the value that is to be animated, which is the X position of this word. The value to be animated has to be passed to the style of the animated component, but we need to define it first. Since this is related to the component in here, we can define it on the instance of this component. So let's call it title X position. And since it's just a single value, we can use new animated.value. Just like that, and we'll make it start from 0. When working with positions, animated.value0, once given to an animated component, would represent the position where the component is located currently. And then any value that we transition this position to is going to be an offset from that 0 initial value. Remember that this position will not represent an absolute value, but rather a relative one. So let's give this position to the animated component. So in here, we already have the style container. So I'll convert this into an array so that we can add more styles. And the new style that I want to add is basically the X position, and we'll use it as the left property for this view. So the left would be this dot title X position, just like that. So when we define the animation and the animation starts happening, the animated view component is going to control its left position, and that can happen in any of the two directions. Remember, this current left position is the 0 mark, which is where the left of the bake sale word is currently at. So when we do the animation, if we reset the left to 0, that would center the bake sale word on the screen, because that is the left where it started. That's the 0 marker. Very good. So now we can animate. So let's first test an animation of left from 0 to say 100, and I would expect the word to move 100 pixels on the screen. We can do that in component didMount. We need the word to exist in the UI first. I'm going to first use the Spring animation type to show you how that works. So basically we do animated.spring. This method takes 2 arguments. The first argument is what to animate. So we want to animate this title X position. That's the value we're interested in animating. And in the second argument, you give a configuration object. There are plenty of things in the API that you can configure, but the important property here is the toValue. Where do you want the position to be animated? So let's animate it from 0 to 100. So this call defines the animation, but it doesn't really start the animation. To start the animation, you can chain a call for start, just like that. So define the animation and start the animation. So we can test this out, refresh. And did you notice how the bake sale word springs to 100 of the screen, just like that? To make for a bouncing effect back and forth, we can start a new animation after this one is done and basically animate the position to -100, for example. However, the animation calls are all asynchronous. So we can't start the new animation right here after the first animation. We'll have to do it through a callback. The start method exposes this callback, and this callback is going to be invoked once the animation is done, once the value reaches 100. So we can basically do another call here to animated.spring, and we also need a .start here as well, and we'll animate the value to -100. And let's test that out. Refresh. Did you see that? One more time. Excellent. So to accomplish our bouncing operation, we can just put that in a loop. We'll put this call here in its own function. Call this function animate title. So this is a function, And this function will do the animated.spring call. And now since we have a function, we can just make the function call itself. So basically in the callback here, once the first animation is done, we can call this dot animate title again. And to flip the direction of the animation, we can have the animate title accept a direction here. And this direction would be default to 1. So in our case, the first direction would be to the right. And in here, we can flip this direction by saying -1 times the current direction that we have. So this way, every time we flip the direction, and we just use the direction here instead of -1, we can do direction times 100. So the first time we animate, it will animate to 100. When that's done, it will animate to -100, and it will go into a loop of doing that. So now, on component did mount, we need to start the animation. So this dot animate title, and by default, it will start to the right. Let's test. Back and forth, we have animation. So I hope this wasn't too hard. It will get a little bit harder when we combine animation with gesture recognition. In the next video, we are going to talk about the screen dimensions and the different easing functions that we can use with timed animations.